Good morning, dear children. Welcome back. In today's session, we will discuss Class 6, Term 1, Unit 3 in History, Indus Civilization. This is part 1 of the video series. Come children, let us learn about Indus Civilization. Before going into today's session, let us see what are we going to learn in this unit. We will try to learn how Indus civilization is related to other contemporary civilizations. To understand the urban nature of the Indus civilization, that is how modern it was compared to the other civilizations. To know the lifestyle of the people of this civilization. To identify and study the major sites of Indus civilization. To mark their geographical location in maps. So all these things we are going to learn in this unit. Come children. Before going into the lesson, let me give you a brief introduction. The term civilization means the level of development at which people live together peacefully in communities. So what is civilization? It is a level of development. That is, people who are living together as communities. Ancient civilization refers specifically to the first settled and stable communities that became the basis for later states, nations, and empires. So we are considering only those people or communities who first settled and they were a stable community. The first ancient societies arose in Mesopotamia and Egypt in the Middle East, the Indus Valley region of what we are now Pakistan and India, and in the Huang He, that is Yellow River Valley of China, on the island of Crete in Aegean Sea, and in Central America. So these are the places where the civilizations flourished. They are Mesopotamia, Egypt, both in the Middle East, Indus Valley in now called Pakistan and India, and Huang He, that is a Yellow River Valley in China, and island of Crete in Aegean Sea, and in Central America. All these civilizations had certain features in common. That is, they built cities and invented forms of writings. They learned to make pottery and used metals. They domesticated animals and they created fairly complex social structures with class system. And what do you think, children, is possible for the mankind to get settled in permanent communities? It was nothing but agriculture. A turning point in human history, the invention of farming and the tremendous change it brought about have been called the agricultural revolution. Now let us see about the Mesopotamian civilization. Mesopotamia, from a Greek term meaning between rivers, lies between the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers, a region that is today part of Iraq. By about 5000 BC, small tribes of farmers had made their way to the river valleys. On the floodplains, they raised wheat, barley, and peas. The Egyptian farmers, my dear children, had settled in the long and narrow valley of Nile River by 5000 BC. Within 2000 years, Egyptians had invented writing and built massive irrigation work. They built the pyramids and other magnificent monuments to posterity. Coming to the Indus Valley, the valley of Indus River is considered to be the birthplace of Indian civilization. And the Indus Valley civilization was not discovered by archaeologists until 1924. It is said that by 4000 BC, primitive farmers were raising vegetables, grains, and animals along the river banks. By 2700 BC, two major cities, Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, and numerous smaller towns had emerged. There is some evidence that Mesopotamian traders reached the early people of the Indus Valley by sailing there from Sumer. Coming to the Chinese civilization, the Chinese had settled in the Huang He or the Yellow River, a valley of northern China, by 3000 BC. By then they had pottery, wheels, farms, silk. But yet they are not discovered writing or use of metals. All these civilizations were established only in places near the rivers, mostly along their banks. Dear children, initially people lived in groups. Then they formed communities out of these groups. Then evolved the societies, which in due course became civilizations. So first there were people who lived in groups, and these groups formed communities, and these communities evolved into societies, which later on became civilizations. Why do you think people settled near rivers? Why they were settling near the rivers? People prefer to settle near the rivers for the reason given below. The first one is the soil is fertile. Since it is near the river, the soil is very fertile. Fresh water is available for drinking, watering, livestock and irrigation. So you have drinking water available for drinking, watering the livestock as well as for irrigation. And easy movement of people and goods is possible. So river is a means of transport for goods and people. You can see the timeline of civilization with the Mesopotamian coming in 3000 to 2000 BCE, and you have the Indus civilization from 3300 to 1900 BCE, and you have the Egyptian civilization from 3100 to 1100 BC, and Chinese civilization from 1700 to 1122 BC. Dear children, the discovery of Harappa in 1829 Common Era was the first indication that any such civilization existed in India. The people of this civilization developed a writing system known as the Indus script or the Harappan script. It has not yet been deciphered. Nobody is able to understand what is the meaning behind the script. The two best known excavated cities of this culture are Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, both of which are thought to have once had a population between 40,000 to 50,000 people. Dear children, now let us learn about the discovery of a lost city, that is Harappa. Harappa, Harappa. The ruins, that is leftover, of Harappa were first described by the British East India Company soldier and explorer Charles Mason in his book. So it was Charles Mason who described about the Harappa first. He was a soldier of British East India Company. When he visited the northwest frontier province, which is now in Pakistan, he came across some mysterious brick mounds. And he wrote that he saw a ruined brick castle with very high walls and towers built on a hill. So it was his description that was there. What he said was there was a ruined, that is destroyed brick castle with very high wall. It had very high wall and towers, and it was built on a hill. This was the earliest historical record of the existence of Harappa. So this is considered as the earliest historical record. In 1856, when engineers laid a railway line connecting Lahore to Karachi, so when they were laying a railway line connecting Lahore to Karachi, they discovered more burnt bricks. So they were able to find more burnt bricks. Without understanding their significance, they used the bricks for laying the railroad. So without knowing it would have been some civilizations left over, they just used it up for laying the road. Dear children, in 1920s, archaeologists began to excavate the cities of Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. They started to dig out the cities of Harappa and Mohenjo-daro in 1920s. They unearthed the remains of these long forgotten cities. They were able to find some remains. In 1924, the Director General of ASI, that is the Archaeological Survey of India, Sir John Marshall, found many common features between Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. So John Marshall was able to find so many common features between Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. Some of the features were both were located on the river banks. Mohenjo-daro on the right bank of the Indus and Harappa on the left bank of river Ravi. The ground plan, including layout of streets, blocks of houses, were common to both the cities. Water supply, drainage, granaries were common in both. And he concluded that they were part of a large civilization. Considering the common factors of Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, Sir John Marshall came to the conclusion that they were belonging to a common civilization, which was a very large one. Some slight differences are found in the earthenwares of Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. You can find some differences in the earthenware. This made the researchers conclude that Harappa was older than Mohenjo-daro. So from the research, they were able to find out that Harappa was older than Mohenjo-daro. I told you that Sir John Marshall belonged to the Archaeological Survey of India. He was the Director General of Archaeological Survey of India in 1924. Now, Archaeological Survey of India was started in 1861 with Alexander Cunningham as a surveyor. Its headquarters is located in New Delhi. It was the first systematic research into the subcontinent's history. Was conducted by the Asiatic Society. Dear children, now it is time to find out how do archaeologists explore a lost city, how they are able to find it out. What they do is, they study the physical objects such as bricks, stones or bits of broken pottery, that is shreds, to ascertain the location of the city and the time that it belongs to. So once they find out some physical objects like bricks or pots, they will find out the location of the city and the time that it belonged to. They search the ancient literary sources for reference about the place. Then they will look up in the literary sources, that is the literature, any references given in that. They look at aerial photographs of the excavation sites or cities to understand the topography. Topography refers to the mountains, valleys, rivers or craters on the surface. That is the arrangement of landforms. To see under the ground, they may use a magnetic scanner. So they use a magnetic scanner to scan the ground. The presence and absence of archaeological remains can be detected by a radar and remote sensing methods. So two methods can be used to feel the presence or absence of archaeological remains. They can use a radar or a remote sensing method. So dear children, they will study the physical objects and to find out the age and location. After that, they will search up the literary sources, the literature in that area, in that period, and they will see any reference to that place is given. After that, they will look at the aerial photographs of the sites to understand the topography. Then to see the ground, they will use a magnetic scanner to scan the ground. And the presence or absence of materials can be detected by radar or by remote sensing methods. Dear children, you can find the cities within the Indian borders of the Harappan civilization. You can see there, you can see Lothal, Dholavira, Ganveriwala, Kalibangan, Mithai, and so on. Now children, let us learn about the time span of Indus civilization. The geographical range was South Asia. A period was Bronze Age. The time, that is 3300 to 1900 BCE, determined by radiocarbon dating method. Area was 13 lakh square kilometers. Cities, there were 6 big cities. Villages, more than 200. Harappan was considered as an urban civilization because of the following reasons. The reasons for considering Harappan to be an urban civilization. First one was well-conceived town planning. They had a plan for the town. It had astonishing masonry and architecture. The masonry, the brickwork and architecture was excellent. Priority for hygiene and public health. There were drainages throughout the streets and they were given priority for hygiene, cleanliness and public health. Standardized weights and measures. They had standardized weights and measures for buying and selling. Solid agricultural and artisanal base. They were very good in agriculture as well as it with artifacts. There were plenty of ornaments and potteries, toys used. So we can say that Harappan civilization is an urban civilization. Now let us learn about the unique features of Harappan civilization. Town planning is a unique feature of the Indus civilization. The Harappan city had two planned areas. So there were two planned areas for the Harappan city. One was the upper town, other one was a lower town. Which were the two planned areas? It was upper town and lower town. Now we will see the upper town. The upper town is a part of the city to the west was higher and it was called as citadel. It was used by the administrators. You can find great bath and granaries. So upper part was on the west side and was higher and it was called as citadel. It was used by the administrator and it had great bath as well as granaries. Whereas the lower town consists of the part of the city towards the east, which was lower but it was larger. It was inhabited by common people. So one part, upper part was higher, occupied by the administrator. Lower part, which was lower but larger, inhabited by the common man. Mehergarh, the precursor to Indus civilization. Children, Mehergarh is a Neolithic site. It is located near the Bolan Basin of Balochistan in Pakistan. You can find Mehergarh is located in the Bolan Basin of Balochistan. It is one of the earliest sites known. It is the oldest site. It shows evidence of farming and herding done by man in very early times. So there is evidence for farming as well as herding, that is growing of cattle, done by man in very early times. Archaeological evidence suggests that Neolithic culture existed in Mehergarh as early as 7000 BC. So there was Neolithic culture in Mehergarh as early as 7000 BC. Dear children, Neolithic age is the time where there was agricultural revolution, that is marked the transition in the human history from small nomadic groups of hunter-gatherers to larger agricultural settlements and early civilization. Now the time for recap. Before winding up the session, let us have a recap. In this session, we discussed the introduction of Harappan civilization. We learned that the ruins of Harappa were first described by the British East India Company soldier and explorer Charles Mason in his book. He wrote that he saw a ruined brick castle with very high walls and towers built on a hill. It was in 1920s that the archaeologists began to excavate the cities of Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. They unearthed remains of these long forgotten cities. It was in 1924 the Director General of Archeological Survey of India, Sir John Marshall, found many common features between them. He concluded that they were part of a large civilization. The Harappan civilization is said to be an urban civilization. They had two planned areas like upper town and lower town. In the next session, we will discuss in detail about the Harappan civilization. Time for worksheet. Worksheet number 1. Roman number 1. Fill in the blanks. Question number 1. Dash is the oldest civilization. Dash is the oldest civilization. Question number 2. Archaeological Survey of India was founded by Dash. Archaeological Survey of India was founded by Dash. Question number 3. River valleys are said to be the cradle of civilization because Dash. River valleys are said to be the cradle of civilization because Dash. With that, we wind up today's session, my dear children. Thank you for watching. For more videos, please subscribe our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Samacheer Kalvi Guide. Thank you. Stay blessed.